Okay, adrenal fatigue. Let me get some key concepts, so 15 minutes. Yes. I don't get through my jokes in 15 minutes. Never much more important than the real material.
Are you coming back again?
I don't know. People just point me to places and I go there and talk. It's more or less true. Adrenal fatigue. Now, I'm going to symptoms. Remember that list of symptoms for low thyroid? That's the same list of symptoms for almost anything for adrenal fatigue. And that's, I can't emphasize, it is the walking wounded person. This person's been to every doctor and they've been told your lab tests are okay and you feel tired, achy, sore, not sleeping well, your daytime, nighttime schedule is off, and you have this little burst of energy like 10 p.m. maybe, and then, can stay up a little bit, and then you crash, and you have trouble getting up in the morning. Your carbohydrate craving, but it makes you feel worse. I could go on, but it's a ton of symptoms that are associated with adrenal fatigue. And so, I'm just going to go through a few things. Again, the Western doctor, and we'll go into that normal range, okay? The Western doctor is an expert at diagnosing disease. So once again, know who you're seeing, all right? So the Western doctor is taught to either diagnose Cushing syndrome, high cortisol, and this is own disease where your body's making way too much cortisol, has to do with either a problem with the pituitary or the adrenal, or Addison's disease, which basically means you're not making enough. And there's a variety of reasons for that. That's not what neither of those conditions are what this talk is about. It's that whole range of function in between, because there is a continuum, okay? But we are taught, and once again, give us empathy. We are taught that if you don't have this, Addison's, and you don't have this, Cushing syndrome, you're fine, okay? And we kind of take it, but it's this whole spectrum of activity. We have been misled by some other things about the general adaptation response syndrome by Hans Selye and some other things that was written on other animals that aren't true for humans. In general, if you stress a rat long enough, you can slam a door and they just die. I am not kidding you. Poosh. Slam the door and 3 of your test rats will just drop, okay? They have very little adaptive capacity. We're much stronger. We can go on forever like this, stressed and nearly dead, okay? And our adaptation thing can go on decade after decade. And you feel bad when the door slams, and you don't even know why, okay? But you don't die, okay? And that's what doctors have been taught. It was like, well, if you had that kind of adrenal function, you'd be dead, okay? Not true. We have amazing adaptation responses as a human that rats apparently don't have. It's not looked for. Why don't you see it? Why does it? And I see this all the time, But the doctor will tell you, I never see a problem with reverse T3 and T3. When was the last time you ordered one? Well, I don't order those. when was the last time you really tested for adrenal function? Because I never see it. And I go, well, did you test for it? It's like, nope. Okay. So it's awesome. It really is, I don't know if there's no heavy metal toxicity in my practice. Did you test for it? We don't do that. Killing me. So symptoms precede signs, which precede syndromes. Okay, diagnosis is made from syndromes. This is a really classic thing to understand. Symptoms precede signs, which precede syndromes. This is where we make the diagnosis. Every system of healing, it says, is dis-ease precedes disease, is what this basically says. Okay. That's according to statistical norms, and after that disease. Remember when they tried to move the weight up, okay, normal weight, all the way up, because everybody was getting heavier, and, we're not heavy anymore, we just adjusted the graph, okay? The problem we're having with the adrenals is that, again, the statistical average includes a lot of people that are very unhealthy, and they adjust it based upon the weighted average in terms of what's going on in your population, so the numbers change over the decades with the normal reference. You can't measure hormone receptor sensitivity. I'll say that again and again and again. Okay, So yeah, like somebody who has that low TSH and the low thyroid hormones. Let's say she has the most strong thyroid hormone receptors in the universe. Let's say she gets 10 times as much out of her thyroid hormone as you do. Okay, that's possible. That is a possible explanation. We can't prove it per se, other than how you function, how are you doing, etc. Because that's a possible explanation. It's not always disease when something is off and something's not normal. not everybody who sees things, visionaries, are psychotic. Okay, in our country they are. Okay, but visionaries existed before antipsychotic drugs. And if you mention it to your doctor now, I have a vision. What do you get? Antipsychotic drug, right? It's true. Okay, it's like there's no possibility that seeing something means that you're okay. You have to be brought back to the normal average of the not seeing things people. Kind of cute. And this is what I'm talking about. Diagnosis of Addison's. Let's say this is a cortisol level, and this is the general, again, 95% of people are supposed to fall in plus or minus 2 standard deviations. So 2 standard deviations of the mean is a definition of a normal curve, okay? And so this is Addison's, this is Cushing's, and supposedly this person is the same as this person, okay? But we don't know. If that person here lives here all the time, meaning their thyroid function was up here, cortisol, adrenal function was up here, or thyroid for that matter, and they've dropped down to here, they feel horrible, okay? Or alternatively, they've been living here and you're giving them hormones to make them be up here, and just because of your lab test, and they now feel bad too. So you have to be careful. We have these very tight windows of hormones that we like that are so much different than when you have in these reference ranges in the labs. 2 small glands, over 50 hormones. It's amazing the complexity of the function of the adrenal gland. It's awesome. Okay, I included these slides today as just some of the things I was throwing in. The best, and I'm as guilty as trying to save people money as the next person, is blood testing optimal for adrenal function? And the answer is no. And I'm as guilty. I've ordered them on people, and at their spot, if you do a spot morning blood test, you get an idea. What you really want to do is salivary, which is the standard of care by the NASA and the military and everybody else for decades. Salivary hormone testing for adrenals is the gold standard of care, period, end of story, according to anybody who reads in medicine. So anybody tells you that this is not a valid testing isn't reading. That's it. Okay. So, and this is what we're looking for, is a nice normal curve. This DHEA is probably a little bit low, but once again, cortisol, fight or flight response hormone, okay? Stress, okay? DHEA, kind of a maintenance hormone, helping your body function, good metabolism. Works very well with thyroid for helping your body build lean body mass, take out body fat. What you see sometimes in people is just these low-grade abnormalities, and this is a early stage dysfunction where they're falling within this normal curve, but you can see there's dysregulation, definitely too low. It should be flowing like this, right? Just like the last one, okay? But you see this little dysregulation. Something happened at this time. The person's stressed. They got up. They're doing kind of low functioning, but they stressed themselves out over something to do it, get the kids to school, We measure things. But look, their maintenance hormone is next to immeasurable. They've taken all their effort to make enough cortisol to deal with the stress of the day. Nothing left for maintenance, okay? This is a significant degree of adrenal dysfunction, okay? The person's living, they're getting their jobs done. I'm not saying different, okay? But this is a very difficult situation. It's not adrenal failure, but you're not making enough adrenal hormones. There's another common pattern. You wake up in the morning, and this is the level you get. It could be this because of your nightmare. It could be this because you're not sleeping well at all. It could be any number of things. It could be because of a whole variety of awesome hormonal responses, growth hormones and all these other factors that factor into this thing, okay, that cause you to peak in the morning because you gotta get going. You gotta get yourself going in the morning, and you're already ready to go, but this is the person that crashes, okay? If you measure, yes, 3, okay, if you measure a 24-hour urine cortisol, do you understand how they're high here, low here? A 24-hour test is not gonna tell you anything about this person, okay? You measure this here and you say, oh my gosh, you've got so much cortisol, you've got the adrenals of Superman, or something like that, and you don't, okay? You just burst out enough to deal with your stress and you crash. That's why you have to measure a few tests.
Is there ever people that do have so much cortisol that they just never burn out?
Might they be? I don't know. They run around a lot, stressed, and things like that.
No, but I mean, is there some people
like that
we have so
in
much
this room
that,
today? You opened yourself up. First of all, there are people who live. Yes, the stress junkies and things who live on their cortisol rushes, okay? And they get used to that. And they give themselves a sugar hit to try to get themselves stressing their body a little bit from the sugar. And the up and down causes a cortisol release. Because that up and down of the blood sugar that makes them feel bad, it gives them enough adrenaline and cortisol to function a little bit, okay? Yeah, these people exist. This is very concerning state, the flat cortisol curve. There's all kinds of things. And if this was here, by the way, it would be almost as concerning. If you lose this diurnal variation, the day-to-day, variation, diurnal variation, that is an extremely bad sign. Now, when I say that, you can live through this. Remember, we talked about you can live decades like this, all right? But this is the person that's really the walking wounded. You also have to be very careful. This is a sign that your pituitary has talked to your adrenals and says, that high level of cortisol from before the function, see this high level of cortisol actually is very damaging to the brain. It's very difficult on the brain, and your brain says, I can't take it anymore. And it sends a signal and says, I can't take those levels of cortisol anymore. I'm not going to have any more memories or anything else. I'm protecting myself. Okay. So what does a lot of natural doctors do these days when they see a thing like this? They give you a gob of cortisol. Okay. And it's not very healthy. You have to fix the adrenals. You can't just give cortisol. If the person is near death, okay, they can't get by, they have to function somehow, yes, you can give cortisol, but you've got to be very careful. This is a sign that your body has down-regulated your cortisol production. Your brain is talk. When I say your brain, cortex, hypothalamus, pituitary, talking to your adrenals, okay, has talked to that and said, listen, I can't take it anymore, okay? That's what that means. All right. So, remember the adrenals are the best source of hormones for women. So when you go into menopause, I know I'm almost done. When you go into menopause, if you have healthy adrenal function and healthy thyroid function, you can tolerate menopause extremely well. Okay. And because remember how we talked about you have these three systems: the adrenal, thyroid, and the ovarian axis. If you kick out the ovarian axis, menopause. Okay. And these other two systems are just hanging on, guess what happened? Okay, so a lot of menopause, symptoms of course are related to loss of ovarian function. I'm not saying different, but it's a pretty good sign that the first two systems aren't working as well either. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, anything else? There's all kinds, first of all, so you test for this, and you see curves like that, your doctor sees that, then you talk with somebody who knows how to help you. There are adrenal glandulars, there are adrenal supplements, there are adaptogenic herbs that have been around forever that really help your body out. The rhodiolas of the world, the ashwagandhas of the world, these are herbs that, and it's give me a little bit. Okay, they're so cool, okay, because they've been able to live in these horrible environments. They create these things called heat shock proteins, which is a whole other system, okay, but you absorb what from the plants, what helped them adapt to very tough environments, and it helps you adapt. Because remember, we did coexist with all these plants of the world. That's why, yes, and it's part of their destiny to actually work with us, by the way. They don't mind it, okay? So, they really don't. You're fulfilling their destiny by taking them into you, okay? You really are, okay? So they'll make more, okay? They're not your cheese approach to rhodiola, but anyways, there's more of it out there, okay? And so and you take in these adaptogenic herbs, and this is so important for you because why? Because if you adapt yourself, let's say, oh my gosh, can I overdose on them? No, because if you're too high, they can bring you back down, and if you're too low, they can bring you back up. That's why they're called adaptogens. That's why your herbal system is actually superior. And it's very difficult for your doctor to understand adaptogens. Remember, they've been taught a drug pushes you this way, or it pushes you that way, but it certainly can't do both. I don't believe you. Okay? Okay? But it can. Okay? And there's lots of great studies. Hawthorne can raise the blood pressure in somebody who's too low, can lower it in somebody who's too high. It's adaptogenic. Is it as powerful as a drug? Probably not.